Governor Rick Perry joins us now from Austin. Governor, thank you for coming. You have called the federal response to this crisis inept. Do you mean the president's inept, or is Congress inept too?
Well, I think there's plenty of blame to spread around from this perspective, but when you're the President of the United States, you are at the tip of the spear, so to speak, and whether it's a VA that's had scandals or whether it's the IRS, you're ultimately going to be responsible. And this situation, and I go back to multiple years in the past of which we've drawn attention to this administration and the problems on the border. We've asked for 1,000 National Guard troops for over 4 years from this administration. As a matter of fact, in May of 2012, Bob, I gave the President a heads up on what was happening with these unaccompanied children, these alien children who were coming in on the tops of trains, and we laid out exactly what we felt was going to happen if we didn't address that, and now we're seeing that become reality with literally tens of thousands of these young children making this long or just very dangerous trip, being separated from their parents, and it could have been stopped years ago had the administration listened, had the administration been focused on the border with Texas. I just don't think there's the interest. I've got to take that as a I'm not interested. When we asked the President to come this last week, he made a decision not to come. They're just, time after time, you see a response from this administration that says, you know what, we're really not that interested in the southern border of the United States.
Well, let me ask you, what do you do with these children, Governor? Many of them, as you well know, were escaping drug cartels, we're told, human trafficking. Once they get here, aren't we going to have to find some way to help them? What can be done about this?
It is a problem of monumental humanitarian impact, and you have to go back to the source of what's going on here, I think, and this is like a triage, if you will. If you have a patient that is bleeding profusely, the first thing you have to do is stop the bleeding, and that's the reason we have been so adamant about securing the border. Very quickly that message will be sent to American countries that you cannot send your children up here, you cannot catch a train or a bus or be coyoted up here, as you will, to walk across the border, and you're freely going to be able to stay in the United States. That was the message for years and months from this administration. That's what they saw, and that was the message that went back.
Let me ask you about something else. You really ripped your fellow Republican Rand Paul in an op-ed in Saturday's Washington Post. You said, your words, Obama's policies have certainly led us to this dangerous point in Iraq and Syria, but Paul's brand of isolationism, or whatever term he prefers, would compound the threat of terrorism even further. Well, he responded today. He said, unlike Governor Perry, I am opposed to sending American troops back into Iraq. I support continuing our assistance to the government of Iraq. I support using advanced technology to prevent ISIS from becoming a threat. I also want to stop sending U.S. and arms to Islamic rebels in Syria who are allied with ISIS, something Governor Perry doesn't even address. I asked Governor Perry, how many Americans should send their sons and daughters to die for a foreign country, a nation the Iraqis won't defend for themselves? He really takes exception to your criticism. What is your response to what he says?
Well, I agree with him that it is the failed policies of this administration that find ourselves in this really bad position that we're in today, not unlike the failed policies on the border with Mexico and Texas that is causing this issue with all of these unaccompanied alien children that we're seeing flooding into the border. But back to that part of the world. We have allies there in the form of Israel and Jordan that expect us to stand with them, to help them. They are very nervous because they've seen this president talk about red lines that he was going to draw in the ground, and then those red lines mean nothing. I disagree with Senator Paul's representation of what America should be doing. And when you read his op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, he talks about basically what I consider to be isolationist policies. And America can no longer come back onto the continental United States and draw a red line around the shore of America and think that we're somehow or another not going to be impacted. We must engage and tactically, thoughtfully, using the assets that we have against ISIS to keep these individuals from being able to create an Islamic State in that part of the world that will put Jordan and put Israel's literal future in jeopardy. And we need to send clear messages and powerful messages. The idea that I'm for opening up the gates and sending, multiple numbers of American troops back into harm's way, I bet is a bit of a stretch. As a veteran, as an individual who has deployed hundreds and thousands of U.S. National Guard, Texas National Guard troops to Iraq and Afghanistan over the course of the last decade, I understand as well as anyone the concept of putting our young people in harm's way. We need a strategy that is sound. We need a strategy that when we say we're going to do something, we do it, and our allies, again, can trust us, and our enemies fear us.
All right. Governor, I'm sorry we have to end it there. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.